you guys hear the news this week? MotoGP riders can't gesticulate anymore without being fined. Moto3's Niccolo Balega was the first man to cop a €300 fine for giving Jorge Martin the bird. A somewhat hollow move from a company trying to protect its reputation, as certain yellow-suited riders have ran riot in the last year or so. But this was only the second most interesting story to come out of Aragon this past week. This story has gone quite under the radar, but beneath the surface we could be witnessing a dangerous precedent taking place, and it involved the weekend of Danilo Petrucci. In Free Practice 3, he was in a nasty accident after being collected by Pol Espargaro's Yamaha. He was assessed and allowed to continue, but not before a very concerning interview had come out where he said, and I quote, "I was conscious but didn't remember where I was. I went back out and still didn't remember where I was. I was scared." Now, I'm no doctor, but that sounds a lot like a concussion to me, and it may have played into the accident that he and teammate Scott Redding had during the race. Now, this is a problem to begin with, as the incident was not shown on the live broadcast, and has turned into a nasty game of he said, she said, but Petrucci claimed he had an engine braking problem, while Redding claimed he didn't have a f***ing brain, which is somewhat ironic given he may very well have had a concussion in the first place. Now, I'm not blaming Danilo. MotoGP is a lot like another sport I'm comparing it to in this video, and that's the National Football League. Both sports have this tendency and attitude of playing through pain, and if there's even a chance that you can play, you'll play. And another easy comparison, the NFL has had a concussion problem for a good 20 years or so. Just 2 years ago they had to hand out a $765 million lawsuit after a collection of over 4,500 players sued the league for head-related injuries. The NFL's tried a new concussion protocol to try and mitigate the problem, but it's far from perfect, as Cam Newton showed when he was clearly out cold during Carolina's first game of the season, but wasn't checked for a concussion in fear of being taken out of the game. And this isn't just an NFL problem. Concussions in sport are becoming more common and more evident to the average sports fan as time goes on. Christoph Kramer had one during the World Cup final. The WWE's Daniel Bryan was effectively forced into retirement after 20 years of wrestling with head bumps and multiple concussions. And even in Formula 1, Fernando Alonso's had 2 concussions in the last 3 years that have caused him to miss a race. This is becoming a bigger and bigger deal, and some sports leagues are way ahead of the curve. MotoGP, sadly, may just be one of those places that isn't. Now, I can only hope that MotoGP's doctors gave Danilo the once-over because they're figures we're supposed to trust. And even more so in a sport that's had 4 fatalities since the turn of the century, the most recent in Louis Salom, still fresh in the memory. Not many know that second impact syndrome after suffering a concussion can kill, and Danilo's accident with Redding could have easily been a lot more deadly if the circumstances were different. Many paramedics and doctors involved in other series like the Isle of Man TT were coming out and saying he would have failed a medical. It makes me very nervous indeed. Now, I don't want to completely rip MotoGP for this. I love the fact that the Mark VDS camp have taken absolutely no chances in resting Jack Miller back to 100% fitness. But the difference between injuries like Jack's and some of the struggles Andrea Iannone has gone through this year is that with an arm or a leg, you can ride, but you can stop when you know the pain is too great. If your rider literally has no idea what he's doing, he shouldn't be anywhere near a motorcycle. And if Dorna let that cat out of the bag, maybe Pramac should have done the responsible thing and withdrew from the race. As time goes on, we're only just scratching the surface of brain study and head injuries in sports, probably slower than the rate that these concussions are actually happening. I just wish MotoGP would take a little more responsibility with their talent, something it's taken for granted far too many times as it is. But please, don't swear about it. It may just come out of your paycheck.